Happy Tuesday.
I like that. Right? A little sarcasm. What you're happy about it. Right. Think of it as okay.
ALS update. Any questions about the ALS update? You have a question.
Yeah, on here where it talks about the amended check to make sure that an HLC extension granted to Lorraine has not enabled them to move into other high schools. What was the extension of what?
Okay, so the background to this, and it's just sharing with you, Jim had made the mistake of saying, how's it going? I'm like, yeah, it's been like a 3-hour meeting. Actually, more than that. We had a long conversation today and a couple other days about college credit costs. So that's the larger context. The short version of it that applies specifically to that comment is that because we were scheduled for accreditation, we could not ask for an exception for the HLC rules around credentialing of faculty. Lorraine did, and so they have people who are teaching classes who are not master's prepared because they requested essentially an extension to get everybody in compliance. That's the short version. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's basically what it is. So it gives, one way to characterize it is that it gives them a certain kind of competitive advantage. And we have other kinds of market and political winds blowing against us as well. I apologize for saying I'm not going to rehearse them all because I've just been 3 hours here.
I have 2 questions. Sure. One in that same box, number 4. What was discussed as to why we're losing students to Lorraine?
So as much as I wanted to try and get,
I know, but I just.
All right, let me give you the again short as I can version of this. There are 2 reasons. One reason is because Lorraine again has lower credential standards than we do. So they'll let people with master's degree or with a bachelor's degree in 15 credit hours and who's in graduate school teach a class. They'll use what's called a teacher of record model where Lorraine signs off on it and the person who's actually teaching the class has a bachelor's degree, all kinds of it is what it is. You don't have control over that. So they're more flexible on their credentialing is one reason, but they're also very aggressive on their pricing. So lots of imagination behind this. But the long story short is the state set a minimum, but you can negotiate anywhere from whatever your standard tuition is down to the minimum. The minimum per credit hour is $40 per credit hour. And the reason the state set this is so that people wouldn't undercut each other and it wouldn't be a race to the bottom. Now, the little fine print on that is actually you can go to the Chancellor of Higher Education and give exception even to the minimum. That's a different story. So, what have we done? We have 3 pricing models for College Credit Plus. The school pays for it with their own funds, but there are 3 pricing models. One pricing model is a regular on-campus tuition, $100 a credit hour. Second pricing model is if our faculty member goes and teaches at the high school, we charge you $80 a credit hour for tuition. Third pricing model is if it's taught at the high school and you're a faculty member, a high school faculty who's qualified by our credentials, a high school faculty member, that's $46 credits. Okay? Here's what Lorraine does. We don't have for the three pricing models. We have one model, and we charge you, I actually think in some cases, they just charge underneath the state model, right? That, again, I can't speak to that directly, but that's what some people have reported. But what is clear is that they're charging on campus, we don't care, before you go sick around. So aggressive, it's a combination of aggressive pricing and not, from our perspective, and frankly from HLC's perspective too, although they're not looking very closely, rigorous credential that's undercut, and so our campus is affected along the margins. So in places like Lakewood, we didn't have great market penetration in Lakewood to begin with, to be honest, because students didn't like to come downtown, and we weren't able to establish enough engagement. So along the margin, we're affected. At the center, places like the Western campus and the West Shore campus have been hammered, and the East is about to get hammered. So North Royalton High School, Brunswick High School, they've literally lost hundreds of students, right? Because somebody who offers it cheap, offers basically the same product, cheaper, and with less hassle, people are like, yeah, and I'll take that one. I mean, because for them, it's just a commodity. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it's just a commodity. And they'll buy it from whoever they can get it from cheapest.
Okay, and then one other one, number 8. Listening about student not raised the math, faculty or whatever. Was that conversation seeming more aggressive or based on this,
Remind me.
what it says is that,
Agenda item
number 8 says math updates.
8. Okay.
That the grades are gonna be sent out to the faculty.
Yeah.
Wilkins is gonna meet with faculty.
Yeah.
That decline, yeah.
Okay, so let me give you the really good
Yes,
background.
okay.
So, campus president, Provost Dr. Johnson, met with math faculty last semester. They have had essentially across the board rule that 80% was the threshold for students to pass 19. And under, I would say, fairly great pressure from Dr. Johnson and the rest of us, they changed that to 75% pass rate. Yeah, that's what that, releasing the grades, that's what that, Rob ran the data on that, and they've been clamoring.
Okay.
So two things sit behind there. One thing that sits behind there is, frankly, a faculty, I told you so, right? We should change the grades, see, it's not getting better, right? Now, in our case, I think a 17% pass rate in 910 is nothing to be. If I were a faculty member, I wouldn't be crowing about that, but it doesn't matter because the ego issues are just different. Okay, so that's one thing that's going on there. The other thing that's going on there is we're trying not to get stuck in this loop of being focused on the wrong problem. What the pass rate in 910 is, what the cut score in 910 is, this is the wrong conversation we have. And again, everybody around this table has seen the research. The national research is really, really clear. There are entire states that have gone to a co-requisite model. That's what we actually need to do. And what is likely to happen, you saw it in this there, it's likely to happen, we don't know until it actually happens, is we're going to take a 2-track model to get there. One is saying, look, if you want to do a 910 accelerated like they're doing in East, go for it. Faculty energy, if that's behind that, that's fine. We're going to convene we're going to pick, but we're going to convene another group of faculty to see how we can get to co-requisites by 2020. That's
Can I say more CCP question? And I swear I'll pull that.
it's okay. It's been all CCP all the
Well, is there like a broader conversation about CCP and like I know Lorraine was doing this and that, but feels almost like a housing bubble, right? Like this huge rush to CCP and enrollment so important, even though it's the smallest part of our funding model. And so what are we willing to invest on the front end? Are there projections at the state level to say wow, this is going to go?
Say this.
Is that is okay?
We're not going to obviously read through
Sure.
all of this, but forgive me. I'm going to read something to you.
You're just
This is,
choosing something.
this is the
Is
last,
always returned.
so this long thing, I referenced it in the last meeting. This is Rob's enrollment study, projection study for the next 5 years,
Okay.
right? And you know, Rob's a pretty serious guy no matter what.
Right.
But you know it's a serious study because it's what finance uses to build the budget.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, right, you're like, yeah, it's probably pretty serious. So this is what Rob says. In summary, the demographic and economic environment in college in which the college now finds itself will pose significant challenge during the next several years. College enrollments have heretofore largely been determined by unemployment rate and the size of the 15 to 24-year-old population. When the unemployment rate has risen, our enrollments have risen with it. When the unemployment rate has declined, our enrollments decline. Throughout much of this time, the college could count on a slowly growing college-going population to shield it during periods of economic expansion. I'll say that again because that is the key line for why College Credit Plus is important. Throughout much of the time, the college could count on a slowly growing college-going population to shield it during periods of economic expansion. So College Credit Plus is a relatively small part of our enrollment, but it's a stable part of our enrollment. It doesn't go up and down dramatically when the economy swings.
So then from
That's why we're after it, because it's a stable part of the enrollment. If we lose it,
Yeah.
it's a problem.
So then as I'm going out and meeting with high schools with Heidi, then, like for example, we have 2 high schools this semester that wanted classes on Monday from 10:30 to 11:21, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 11:30 to 12 something. So that from a college perspective is impossible to staff.
It's a nightmare.
So I can change, and so like I'm thinking I'm going to these college meetings and I'm like, hey, this is great, we want to continue this relationship, here's what do we need in order for me to staff these classes. Kind of has to happen on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Tuesday, Thursday.
Or you're gonna have to hire somebody new who doesn't adhere to whatever the college is.
So then realistically from an
Yeah, so
associate dean standpoint, like I should have a pool of faculty that are specific to CCP.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what those that pool of faculty is called? Graduate students. Because that's the only other people I know who
Yeah.
work on contracts.
Only one, even 3 months.
Yeah, no, I know, it's a nightmare.
So
Yeah,
that's good to know if that's the
high
direction
school
we're going.
teachers are graduate students. Normal people, high school teachers are graduate students. Nobody else can teach that schedule.
Other adjuncts, when you want to
Well,
ask
they can't,
someone to
because
take that.
they can't take
they
another
can't.
job if they
Right.
take that.
That's right, Joe.
Yeah, no, I
So we just need like 2
get why it's
pools.
established.
Okay.
And
That's
just,
good.
this is a side note, but it's important for associate teams to hear this. So at the very end of the College Credit Plus discussion, Jeff finished, somebody said, oh, we lost Lincoln West, and then term we couldn't staff. It's medical terminology. Medical terminology. Let me say that again, medical terminology, med term. Right, I'm like, Terry Pope could teach that class. And she could, right? And pretty much anybody else in most of the health numbers. But it was probably that, right? It wasn't the qualification, it was, we can't find somebody who's gonna teach it at that time. But you understand that pulled out this an issue, we can't staff it, why didn't it come to us? I know why it didn't come to us, because nobody, like, I don't know anybody who can teach that. But I'm telling you, that's the pressure. That's the level of pressure that this has placed on us, because people can see, and you'll see this when you look at these numbers, people can see that 2 years out, we will have lost 15% of our revenue. And just so that you understand what that actually means in real world terms, you're talking about half $500,000 Yeah.
So even though
Yeah,
enrollment is a smaller percentage of the funding model than completion by a fair amount, right? It's still.
Oh,
This is one more time
it's hugely important. What's that?
This is like one more thing where community colleges are supposed to be all things to all people all the time under all circumstances.
Here's the thing. There's a couple different things that it actually speaks to some of the work that we're starting to do. You asked the right question. you asked, are we modeling this? And the answer is yes. So Rob is again, you guys have heard me say, I think he has one of the deepest and most sophisticated understandings of this kind of stuff that anybody could know. And yet, because of his vantage point, because of the past history of the classroom, there's limitations to what he can see and imagine in the model. And unless we figure out what those alternatives are really soon, we're going to be too deep down the road to turn. So I mean, it's just it is at this moment. It feels a little. I mean, the good news is that we feel a sense of urgency before it's become a crisis. It will become. It really certainly does have the potential to become.
And the union was part of the conversation. The faculty was part of the 3-hour conversation today. So like, I go to my coordinator.
Interesting you should say that.
That is interesting.
So the point of the 3 hours of conversation today was that we have an LMC meeting tomorrow because we've had for the last, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it's been, a huge dust up over Euclid. Has it been 2 months? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But there's been this big, well, I mean, Jeff has taken such a beating over this.
Yeah.
Why are you protecting? And I get it. So for folks who haven't been in this, the quick background on it is there's this provision in the contract. It was actually, and the only reason I know this is it's actually in the room when we first talked about it. There's a provision in the contract that's written that basically says, we'll offer these classes that are off campus in the high school to our faculty first, if it's feasible. That's the basic language, right? And the reason it was written that way, of course, was to leave wiggle room and all that sort of thing, because the union never, and I get this, if I were a union president, I wouldn't want to say this either. A union president's never going to say, oh, I'll sign off on giving work to some other union. On the other hand, they recognize that if you run a teachers' reunion in a high school and somebody else is teaching something, they don't care that it's college classes. If your people are qualified to teach it and you're teaching in my building, I want my people to have it, right? That's just Union 101, right? And so there was that conflict between our union and then high school faculty unions. So we wrote this ambiguous language. And of course, ambiguous language will sometimes come back and bite you, and it has. And so the faculty have interpreted it as, we always have right of first refusal, ignoring the if feasible clause. That has blown up at Euclid because the English faculty are looking at the 2,000 level courses that are being offered there, and they're like, we should be able to teach those courses. And the Euclid high school faculty are saying, no way. It's in our school. We're teaching it, and the principal's like, listen, I'm not going to get myself killed. If my faculty can't teach it, we just won't do it. And that's the situation we're in. That's what's impatient months of conversation about this. So the short answer is we have an LMC meeting tomorrow. We're all trying to get on the same page of how do we solve this problem? And there's a bunch of other, and what I would call extrinsic issues, but the core union issue is just that issue of right of first refusal. That is really the core issue. And whether they're going to go to war over this and win the battle and lose the war, because ultimately we'll have fewer classes, right? Or whether Jeff's going to find a way to navigate this so that here are the circumstances under which we say it's reasonable to give it to the high school faculty. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. I think that's why Dr. Johnson's been talking to us for hours now. We don't know how it's going to play itself out, but that is the issue.
That's weird to me, those 2,000 English classes.
Oh yeah.
They've been wrong with it.
But I mean, look, believe me, I swear to you, I do not mean this as any kind of insult. I just mean it descriptively. But there's a human instinct that says if I can't have something ready, that's a big driver of what's going on. So, sure. there other questions about we cram a lot of stuff into 0 hours, we really do.
So Dr. Scope, I guess, the grant, I did promise grant, that wasn't a discussion on how we're gonna home in those students and how we promote them coming to Tri-C first, even though they're not really getting much out of Tri-C.
So, you want me to say yes?
I'll say yes.
Yeah. We hardly, to be honest, I mean, Angela and I have talked about it, but Alice, we hardly talked about it. I guess, I suspect that's true, there's really two reasons. One is, we'll probably, this next will probably end up getting involved, well, not all of them, but the bulk of them, by far. And also, and, you know, I hate to say this, but again, everybody who's paid attention knows this. Tri-C doesn't actually, we get students out of it, but the students don't actually get much.
Anything, yeah, that's my point.
Because it's what's called a last dollar scholarship. You know, Pell covers most of our students, so they get, I think Angela estimated at $15. It's just, it's annoying. But we will serve the students, we'll find a way to try to distribute it. But again, because students don't get much out of it, it's really hard to be able to sell this, to sell coming here to students.
And Dr. So I mentioned this yesterday, what if they go off of four-year college, not fit,
I know.
and they come back here, do those dollars income?
The problem is, we were creating the calendar for it. Because if you think about it, more are gonna be able to go away because they're gonna have money. They're gonna do that one semester thing, we'll see in the spring.
I'm trying.
Yeah, I know.
Not iPad, just plus.
Problem. Oof.
So this is just,
Okay.
read the detail at your issue, but this is Rob's, mini dissertation on our future enrollment prospects. And like I said, I really read the headline, which is not good. Oh, what's that?
Think about that particular pool of target.
Oh, we should. We absolutely should.
I don't know how to frame that,
Right.
because we're not, I wouldn't wanna say that, we need to teach in high school, and we need to, but
Well,
like, definitely as we're asking about schedules and
Site schedules, yeah.
maybe
Yeah,
target
so-
graduate schools specifically.
So graduate schools would be good, but also probably for a variety of reasons, qualified retired high school teachers would not be a bad choice. Because it's not the
Master
same. as
teachers,
dealing with
master
ordinary
teachers.
kids.
And master teachers, they have.
Yeah, having dealt with that population before, because it is a different, you know, as you well know, it's a different population of students to teach. So having some experience is not bad.
And if we have a problem with just to our schedule, but they have that window where the kids are in school. So I'm thinking about like moms, not stay-at-home moms, but you know, moms that have the experience when they get back to work. And then that, yes.
Yeah.
We're just trying to.
Okay. So, that was about half hour. So, campus hours of operation, monthly town meetings, counseling, and communications, we kind of zipped through those before. So, I'm just gonna ask, does anybody have strong feelings about any of these things?
I do. Campus hours of
Okay,
operation.
talk to us.
Please say that question one more time.
Does anybody have strong feelings about it? Let me just start there. If people have strong feelings about it, let's talk it through. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, mine would be, I mean, when I think about student life, is this posting and communication across the campus.
Yes, that
Yeah.
I know is an issue.
Yeah, that is the issue. So I don't know, you know, this is something that everybody wants to talk about collectively, but, you know, it's in the handbook, okay, that anything that's posted on this campus is supposed to come through the student life office. However, that does not happen. You know, and then when we try to police the campus, then we're, you know, told to leave stuff alone. But when you think about the appearance, which I'm always looking at the appearance, I don't know about you all, it's cluttered, it's just not appealing. You know, and especially I know we've already had, you and I Dr. Stowe about this particular building, so I think we're on board, but then there's still some people that still want to do what they want to do. So I just need to know, you know, going forward, is that gonna be like a directive from you to say this, or how can we handle it?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, are people comfortable with buying now, because we have various outlets of communication, really enforcing this, posting those walls
Yes.
on the press? Yes?
Yes.
All right, and so, we'll draft some communication to this effect, because I don't wanna just say you can't do it. I also want to say, and have Diana help craft some communication around, here's what you do. This is what you don't do, here's what you do. But we're comfortable with that, yes? All right, I'll draft it, bring it back, and then we'll work it through.
I would
Yeah,
say
go ahead.
when I was at West, they had their own big campaign on nothing on the walls. There was some faculty, noise about what about my door, I can put whatever I want on my door. So just wanna make sure that we know that at least at another campus that was.
So I'm gonna say something, and I need you to, I know this seems like a big.
He's a landlord.
Yeah, I was about to say, no, I was about to say this, so this is really, it'll sound like a really picky moment, but I need you to, like, cone us out. So at West, and at Western, they have this crazy thing where you get to pick your office by seniority. We have never done that, as long as I'm here, we're never gonna do that. Pause point, the landlord. No, we're the landlord, right? It's our job to take care of the physical environment for you, for the students, for everybody else. We're the landlord, we don't let, that's that.
It is not their door, it is college's door. I mean, maybe something inside, but outside of it.
Yeah, no, I think,
No,
I
I get it. I was trying
appreciate
to-
that, but I just, that.
I know the office you're talking about too.
I feel the scars of the past.
Yeah, no, and it's good because what you're raising that issue reminds me that I'm gonna need to talk with David, I need to talk with Bob and make sure that they know this is what's coming, right? Because, and part of it is this building, because I can't just say, well, that's true in this building, but it's not true in the rest of the building.
That's
It's
right.
true of the campus, period, but I have to protect the building, that's our job. So, okay, good, all right, we're on the same page for that. Town hall meetings, I know you love your chat show. You guys have done a great job with the chat show. Do we convert it back to town hall meetings, just leave the chat and show, find out ways to communicate?
Certainly like a provost hour,
Yeah.
you know, you put whatever you got going in there, right? It's a flex hour space.
So we've had communication council, chat and show,
Yeah.
and then using town hall. When I think town hall, I think Dr.
Dr.
Mm.
Johnson.
So what do we mean by what you're asking?
Call the president's hour or something.
Well, at one point, we had our own time. It was more structured.
How often do you want to have a town hall?
I'm asking whether we should.
Yeah. Well, I don't, the chat show is no longer my baby, but I personally, I think that we have designated time once a month, and I don't expect you to have a town hall perhaps every month, but every couple months, just designate what the chat and shows is. As today's chat and show, we'll have a town hall discussion with Dr. Scope or whatever. That's what I would suggest. I think that people, the nice thing about the chat and show hour is that if we want to do a campus holiday celebration, we have that time already blocked out. That's what I would suggest.
Have you noticed in the chat show there are a variety of people there, or are they the same people?
I think that we get a nice mix. I think there are some people that we see that look forward to and keep coming, but it seems like at every chat show, and maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I feel like there's always a few new faces I haven't seen.
And I think it depends. I think if like that, the last one, where there was a specific topic, that was definitely a different group than what it was. because, you know, they were doing, the dynamic, and that is not the usual 6 weeks.
Do you think we keep the same time, because I know there are folks who wanna come, and it's a constant overlap. And so you're always making a choice as to, am I gonna go staff meeting to come?
Right.
Because you have ongoing meetings.
Now, this
Yeah.
town hall versus, that would be basically, we talk to you about different stuff that goes on the
Yeah,
campus, right?
and it's certainly not just for you. You know, town hall meeting is just that, right? If things we want to discuss and hear from people across the campus, then you set an agenda and share that with folks beforehand.
I think the Chenchel has been, we did several that were panel discussions, but I think that we could be, and recently we've been a lot more creative about what happens at those. So I think if you want to invite people to talk about certain topics and whatnot, it makes total sense.
So we keep the chat and chill, and maybe make one in the town hall.
So how do we communicate, you know, some broader things that are happening at the campus, such as, you know, it still surprises me, but not so much, but a lot of the staff and the faculty particularly, they don't realize that financial aid counseling and enrollment center, we're open on Mondays and Tuesdays till 6:30. So how do we communicate that to them? Everybody.
You post a big flyer on the wall outside the office. And
Right, and they'll call the rooms and pass out flyers, you know.
I wonder, I can't remember where it was, but is there also opportunity just to send an Outlook meeting invite to students and say, hey, this Monday, this is your schedule to come in and come see us. They're on Outlook.
We did that for our happy hour.
But to use that as a one thing, I was like, oh, I have an appointment because they're populated.
How did that?
Actually, it went well. We had lots of food too. But, you know, I think it went well. We actually went to the classrooms and passed out flyers prior to the class starting. And if it was on a Wednesday, it was a Monday class, we went on Monday to remind them we would be here on Wednesday, we were having food. So I thought it went pretty good. But after that, you know, we're still not getting the traffic. But I know, you know, they're talking to me and the faculty, they had no idea that we were. They just didn't know.
You can send me an email and I can get it out to all faculty as a reminder, just as another thought.
The important people are students, right?
Yes.
So is it possible to just communicate that through email to all of them, that would that be the thing?
We did. Maybe we should do it every semester, maybe.
So are we sure we have the right time and day where the student command is?
I'm sorry?
Are we sure that the designated extended time and day is we have it in the right place? Are students not coming because they don't hear about it or they don't need it at that time?
I don't know, I think those hours were recommended when we had the,
We've always had the
forum.
Monday off
The
hours,
student forum.
but we wanted to be able to assist the students who may have Tuesday, Thursday classes, so that's how we got Monday and Tuesday, when we look in general, we get less population goes down in the week.
So, I mean, I think what you said about your open policy that this is suggesting, I think that's something to explore more intensely, which is how do we do targeted and just-in-time communication?
Couldn't you get faculty involved somehow?
I think that's the.
2 minutes before class starts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let me take a concrete example. I have a class at 5 o'clock, and there are students who are looking for services, right? The class doesn't get out until 5:50. Now, it turns out that they also have a class after that starts at 6 o'clock, right? But they could come Tuesday, right? So if mean, honestly, I think, you're gonna run with this, but I think you're on some years. Maybe the students who are most likely to use those services are students who are already here. And so maybe starting in a targeted way and maybe on an ongoing basis communicating with those faculty whose students are here and say, hey, remember, send out an email every blast every Monday, every Tuesday. Hey, remember we're here, and change the title of the email ever so slightly every time, like just saying hi. We're still out here. In case you forgot.
One other area is you actually schedule appointments during those times. So for students who can't be here and they need to utilize their services, when you're having that conversation, it's always that's the scheduled time for you to come. 2 days. So I know the student affairs and counseling, that's why we always have people at those times. So we want to schedule in.
Or yeah, I was gonna say, or send a link to the faculty saying, give me 2 student names and we'll schedule appointments for these students. Whatever. I think about it as a conversation with these faculty members.
And that was one of the reasons that happy hour was kind of successful, is because you actually went around to those classes.
Right, and we had a list of all the evening classes, and we could see where the greatest enrollment was, and which building. That's what we did. So I knew where to go, because I knew where to go.
That's why it was successful.
Yeah.
That's
what we did.
Anyway, so, well, okay, so we got through two of our areas. We'll try the monthly, or once a semester, town hall chat and show, and I'll draft some communication around the posting on the walls. Campus hours at operation.
You don't have to.
That's always typically close out to the last class. The last class let out at 9:50.
Yeah, so
Then-
we basically, the issue is security, thinking only about security, not necessarily about customer service. We'll close when there's the last class in a particular building. Right, so what it means as a practical matter is buildings like creative arts and health careers are open much later than MBA or liberal arts, because those Abby's those last classes from maybe at 9, in MBA might be at 8, and whereas we probably would have most go all the way to 10, and God knows what people are in his
Classroom.
yeah. And that's confusing to people because we've had people who got locked in the building, right? Security will say, no one's ever been locked in the building, but then people say, I got locked in the house. Right? Locked in the garage. Right? That's locked in the garage.
You're right.
So it's been 10 years since I done those things. Here's when the campus ends. So to go on to we have to figure out a way to make it friendlier because we're growing this campus, and as it grows, that'll be less and less friendly to people.
One of the things I found, we had to stay late sometimes on campus, and call security, let them know that you're staying that late, and staying late. And they won't lock it down and actually come out, see how you're doing, and then just out. But there are set hours.
Yeah, I understand there's per building. Too much can happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So again, I'm perfectly willing, if it's not a burden issue for people, I'm perfectly willing to just let it be status quo until we've got plenty of other issues to work on.
Yeah, I think it's
Housing environment to our next meeting,
Yep.
lactation rooms.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the student services building, inside of the transition office.
Okay, this is what I've heard, but I just don't know where to find the location of them, that they're in the gym.
We moved it back
moved it.
in student services, yeah. I was sent down a while ago,
And
but.
women in transition have.
Yeah, it's inside of the women in transition office.
access to it.
Yeah.
All right, because occasionally I have some, students who
Mhm.
want to, go there
Yeah.
and pump
Mhm.
before, between their lecture and their lab.
Right.
Where do I go? And so, you know, we have limited space for
Mhm.
sure in the health careers building. Okay.
That's something about it.
And we can, again,
Is it possible to allocate a certain amount of time for these items?
Yes.
It seems like we don't miss.
Yes. Yes. So Dee and I talked about the exam, and the plan was to try and keep this.
That's why
on the
you
agenda
started and then you let us keep going.
To 15 or 20 minutes.
Oh.
That was the plan. So we started about 10 minutes late. And we went about 10 minutes longer on this part of the agenda, and so now we're down to the last 15 minutes.
The meat.
Yeah. So you and I will get a chance to do this for our next rehearsal session. But it's up to you guys. We can go either way. I can tell you what the last two items are. Those are sort of more performance in the rehearsal, and we can take a deep dive in the dashboard into the case study, or we can start the case study now, and I can tell you where we're going next time. What's your preference?
I would say next time, I would get started at the top.
I wanna know about the case study.
Yeah.
You want to know about the case study? Case studies? Let's say it is.
Bring your ring light.
Okay, so everyone have one?
Because he had, usually it's split, yeah, you can't, it's split, yeah.
It's to us.
Great, so case study that nobody can see.
Right, we need to it.
And, right, and we try to connect your speech stream.
If you have an iPhone, you can use your camera to magnify. Your text.
Yeah, good. Here's some old-fashioned technology. I'm going to tell you what the case study is, and then I'm going to take 5 minutes and tell you where we're going, and we'll figure it out. All right. So case study. We sit at the class, right? We have the ability to at least have some idea of which students are likely to progress and which students are not likely to progress. For last fall, in our first year cohort of students, we had, guess how many students we had who were in the very high category, according to civics? Yes?
27%.
No.
Drifting.
No.
6.
0. Yeah, it's literally less than 1%, or to be more precise, to translate that into actual students, 2. We had 2 who were in the very high category.
High category.
Very high, in the high, yeah, to persist. We had significantly higher percentage of students who are in the high category, right? That is highly likely to persist. When I ran the Civitas profile of students both who were second semester, freshmen, right, which is to say they were their first semester last semester, and who were not re-enrolled, there were 8 of them. There were 8 of them who did not re-enroll, even though they were in that high category. So you have 4 of those students here. Right? So you have screenshots from their one record.
So these are the 4 people
Four,
that did not
four
enroll.
of the students who were in the high category who did not come back. So you've got one student who was in early childhood development, had a more than a 2.0 GPA. Right, that's the first student on the first page. Right, so the 2.66 GPA. Right, she's in ECE. She seems to be doing fine. She didn't come back. Right? We had another student who was in, actually, Jim, one of your students, right? Was in fire, emergency services, earned 20 credits, has more than 2.0 GPA, actually I think 2.9 GPA, didn't come back. Another student, recording arts, right? All in yours. Jen, good GPA, didn't come back. Right? And then the last student on the back page, international student. Right? ESL, but didn't complete all the ESL sequence. So if it would be one thing, might be, doesn't necessarily mean it's true, it might be obvious if she completed ESL level 3 for everything. So she's done with her ESL, she's out of here. But she didn't. So what's going on?
Now, what does Civitas consider when it makes a student high, extremely high, low?
That is a tremendously complicated question. What I can really incredibly oversimplify is that the top 10 predictors of why somebody might stay varies from campus to campus. And just to be clear, I want to be clear about what I'm saying. We're not drawing causal relationships. We're saying if you look at a particular data set, right, and look at all of the factors that might correlate with persistence, those top 10 factors will vary by campus. In fact, we looked at the campus presidents did this exercise one time when we were looking at Civitas and looking at our student population. We had one time where Donna Inhofe and I had none of the 10 factors in common, not one. GPA, number of credit hours taken, zip code from which not one was in common. Right? So it varies from student population to student population. What the most predictive factors are is the short answer. Now, I can drill down as deep as you want to go, but I'll leave it at that.
Student population defined. Are
So
you saying campus or
yeah,
you saying?
in this case, we need campus population because you can. There are lots of ways you can cut the data, but the way we typically cut it is by campus of greatest attendance. Right. So we're not.
Dr. Scope, I just, something's in my head. I'm gonna just put
It's
it
that
out there.
engineer thing.
I'm just gonna put it out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's meaningful, meaningless, whatever.
It's
all right?
okay. We're trying to
I
figure it out.
think- I think often I see you push for stuff, like for sign-up students,
Yeah.
make sure that they sign up and stuff like that, right? But we miss one big thing, and
Yeah.
that is their personal need and what is their situation. Like these 4 students that you got here.
Yeah.
So one is international student, 3 of them are
Yeah.
basically born, raised, and everything here, right?
Yeah.
But what we don't know is what is their life situation, and life happens, right? That's something that I don't think the Civitas cannot predict. If one of these got married, or got pregnant, or had a child that was sick, or they had to spend money for Christmas because, rather than coming to school. I mean, all those are personal stuff that can happen to a person that cause them to, and I say that because I'm one of them.
Sure.
I think I told you last time, it took me 11 years to get my associate degree.
Yeah.
Because with 3 kids, I only went to school when I could.
Yeah.
I wasn't eligible for any kind of grants or anything else, any help. But at the same time, I wanted to continue. So when my wife said, we got money, go to school, that's what I did.
That's the narrative.
Do you know?
It's not, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. What you just said, Ray, is a perfect illustration of exactly what we need to do. Civitas tells one part of the story. It says, when you shine a light on all of our students, in some places, right, that light shines brighter in terms of students who might need attention. And in some places, it doesn't shine as bright. But it doesn't tell you the whole story about why might that student need attention, and what sort of attention do they need, and what sort of systemic support might they need. Right, so as an example, as you were telling your story, and that's why the story is important, right? So as you were telling your story, I'm thinking to myself, right, you got kids, you're raising a family, your wife's like, you need to spend money on groceries, not on school, that kids need clothes, that's how it goes, right? So one way, to your point of thinking about that is, well, is there a way we could have made it possible for you to go to school, not necessarily just giving you a scholarship, although I'm sure you would have welcomed that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right?
But doesn't happen all
But
the
as an example, if we told you we would have loaned you the money, right, to go through a 6-week short-term training program, right? So you don't have to pay it up front, you don't have to take it out of your kid's cereal, right? But would you have done it? Right? That would have taken you from, $20 an hour to $30 an hour.
I mean, if it is that drastic of earning difference, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, the training has to be superb in order within 6 weeks to make it.
So let me take a real world example of this. So for example, most of the people, right, in Cleveland Codes get through the training and get jobs and are making significantly more than they were before, right? Is that true, Chuck?
It's true.
How much is Cleveland Codes?
$7,000.
How many people have $7,500 that they can, let me just plunk that money down? You see what I mean?
Sure.
That's it right there. That's the system, right? But your story helps us think through how these two things intersect. How these two things intersect as a practical matter of maybe we could have saved you a couple of those 11 years if we could have gotten you through something short term that would have given you a leg up and given your family a little more breathing room than just, look, if I got to choose between groceries and school, I know which one I'm choosing. That's easy. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's part of what we have to start to work through on one end. Yeah.
So at the same time, we're looking at this where it says she failed to build the benefit. So do these students leave the balance? And again, I don't know if it's recorded here, but this particular student has some background where she came in, tried to come in from high school without a diploma.
Can we find it?
I don't
In
know.
fact, I'm almost sure there's a page in one record that will allow us to find it out. But again, notice what we can do. What part of what we can do is start to construct a story and then test it against what the data says, not just look at the data and not know what the story is. Yeah, right.
So I appreciate the difference between the 4 campuses. Okay, that it should be there. I don't think we could, I would be surprised if, unless the test is doing the data correctly, that finances aren't in the top of every category at all campuses.
diagnosis. Not necessarily number one, but typically is the highest set of predictor of why a person completes their studies. That's fact, that's not me. That's based on Terenzini and Pascarel's meta-analysis. One of the things that Civitas can't do is, and I would say it probably only predicts about 27%. There's an enormous variable, which is what you're talking about, is individual motivation, because she just showed me hers and she's low. She's gonna drop out tomorrow.
Yeah, my son too.
So, and I'm just throwing this out because I'm conducting we have a project that Janice is putting together, Gateway. So what we're doing, what my group is doing is we believe that faculty perception, they know more than any of us do. And they know more than, quite honestly, Civitas, because they see the students day in and day out. And they could say, you look like you're having what's going on, you have a bad day. On the other hand, we put in systems in place that, and listen, this is my word, so we have care teams, where if or we submit something to one record. So a faculty member with 30 students in their class has to scope the room, no pun intended, and then type in who the person is, get it into one record, then one record has to go to somebody, then somebody has to go here. So what we're doing, so here's what we did. I sat down with faculty, 6 faculty members. I went through 275 students in about less than an hour, and I graded them as 3, 2, 1. I don't care about the 3s, they're good to go, there's no issues. The 2s, there's a concern. 1 means, holy crow, we got a big old problem, and 0 means they're already gone. And you focus your attention on 2 and 1s. But the people who are focusing the attention is not the faculty member, because quite honestly, and by their own admission, they're not going to pick up the phone and call the student unless there's a major crisis. So who does? I take the students and I run them, the students' names, and I ferret them out, either to program manager, myself, or someone else to go after those students. We only meet 3 times like that in the course of the semester. My initial test group included Mike Boyko, Rebecca Malakar, and some others. We were in the 80% prediction at the 3rd week of the semester of getting it right, of who was coming back, versus Civitas, which doesn't predict the 3rd week, it's predicting overall stuff. That's where we're missing, is we don't, I'll just say it this way, we do not know our students. They're not individuals, and that's the challenge.
At the same time, Jim, Civitas did a report today and actually did a study of what initiatives are working. And it said something like it's 60-40%, where 40% of every retention initiative fails. And up to a $16 billion deficit, like fails. So that's
Sorry, one more question. So it seems like an extraordinarily efficient way to get a more granular read on students' likelihood of persistence. So I think there's great value to that. But your question actually occasions the next question I think we all want to ask, which is great. You have a better, stronger, more efficient night than Civitas. Good, so that takes it one step further. What was the persistence rate versus the prediction?
I don't have those figures.
It
did go up. It was
That's
better, and it was better than what Civitas predicted.
That's the delta. That's the delta you want. Because in fact, I will tell you that for our overall body of first year students, Civitas pretty much predicted exactly what we got. And that despite really aggressive intervention. And so, again, increasing the identification rate, I think is valuable. That's the other side that we also want to know, which is, does it mean that those targeted interventions actually bend the days. So that would be great, that would be a great thing to do. Okay. So,
And again, real quick, we found out that the student had $113 balance.
And she feels bad.
I was gonna say,
That was her, she was That was a balance, but she did well in everything else. Of course, I mean, yeah. But I can look at you.
The other folks, they have a math issue, right?
They did.
Some of them have one, I was trying to find
This student is finishing his paramedic at UH Pharma. Got a job as part-time fireman. He completed Fire 1 and Fire 2, I'm not sure where. That's why he has the EMT and his heavy rescue. He had no intention of continuing.
right?
see?
That's an interesting point. And that's probably the same thing with this recording arts person. Probably, he's the person that was in recording arts. He may have gotten a job or something in the industry and said, I don't need to come back.
And I think that's what I meant by,
I'll figure
we
it
should
out,
have,
call
if we had spoken to them, we would know why they weren't
Right.
here, and we wouldn't be counting everyone as a failure, because there's a reason.
Right.
To your Cleveland coach, to your Cleveland coach point, something we're noticing, I'm getting more and more calls from IT students that aren't as interested in the whole program as in classes that might get them employed.
Right.
And we're seeing people that want to chunk information for an immediate need, like you said. And, you know, that's always been the purview of workforce.
Yeah.
But because of funding, financial aid, we see, we're getting pressed in some ways by students to try to come up with something on the credit side that could give them the same benefit with funding.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we're responding fast enough, because we don't quite understand it yet. I mean, the name is chunking your information, and like the boot camps, what one of the predictions is, because you know this, one of the problems with boot camps is they don't really teach you, in my case, to be a programmer. They teach you code. So you know this program. What happens when that program changes? Or the company switches, well, you go back to the matrix, plug it in, and learn something new. That's what they're doing. And they want another boot camp, show me this. Well, how does education change to fit that need?
So you're right, unearthing, right? So we're switching from the microscope, right? This particular instance, right, to the telescope. You're unearthing, right? Where do we systemically have to go? Your point is absolutely well taken. From a statistical standpoint, it doesn't matter. And there's something else though that's deeper than, from a statistical standpoint, it doesn't matter. We know that, right? Because this is what we've always said to ourselves. Well, you know, we're fulfilling our mission because that student got what they came from. But here's the thing: we all know this. You're saying it. You haven't said it, but it's implicitly you're saying it. What they came from is not going to be sufficient for a lifetime. And so, what we know going in is what you came isn't going to be sufficient for a lifetime. On the other hand, you don't have time right now because you got a family to take care of, you got a job you need to do, to go for a degree. So how do we partner with people to prepare them to continually plug into, as you put it, to the matrix? Right? We've been talking for my entire career, I suspect for yours, about lifelong learning. What this is telling you is we damn well better figure it out, right? Because the traditional age of 15 to 24 students, right? This is telling you that's going away. I mean, that's not theoretical, that's real, right? So yes, you're absolutely right. Chunking and giving people flexibly packaged, shorter pieces of learning that they need and can use right now, connecting it more closely to their work, right? and figuring out how people can plan to come back as opposed to, I hit the wall and now I gotta go back to school. All of those things, I think, are part of what we need to figure out. But we need to figure it out in the context of real people. Does that make sense? I mean, that's kind of, again, what you're saying is how do we get to the real people? Yeah, this is part of how we do that. I think part of your point is you've got to engage faculty in this, and that's part of. So I'm just going to allude to it. We can talk more about this. We can pick it up right next week. What is this next point? What is this learning more about Metro? It's exactly what you said, Jim. We know things about how the system works. We know things about how the campus works, right? But we're not in a constant relationship with students, even parents, right? You see them for a minute, okay, half a minute, sometimes half an hour with a really tough case, but still, it's not the same thing, right? And so engaging faculty and helping us understand these issues is absolutely crucial. And you guys have developed a nice methodology to begin to do that. But we have to close that feedback, right? To learn more about students from that vantage level. That's what we need. Those stories that we gather, yes, they're your natural base story saying, is the student 1, 2, or 3, and how do I intervene on the front end as opposed to when they have a balance, right? How did I use my mental way to do that? That's closing the loop, right? And there's another dimension that we also need to gather in those stories. From a faculty perspective, from a staff perspective, who else are you connected to? Because that social network matters, right? And so mapping that and figuring out what those connections are so that we can leverage them are also really important.
And then within lies hypothesis. How do we engage the actual faculty who are teaching the largest? Two disconnected groups.
Dr. Scope, you did some great hand gestures with this.
Yeah.
I'll get off the soapbox. One of the things that in my time at Tri-State, is there's a lot of different theories, philosophies, and concepts going on. It seems that one of the things as I'm hearing the Metro Way is I'm going to say it's a theory, a theorist. And what we need to do is figure a way to put it on paper so that here's where the student, I'm mirroring Tinto obviously, here's where the student begins with all these variables, whatever they are. You have formal in the classroom, which we have some control, formal out of the classroom, but then you have all this informal stuff where students congregate, all this money we spent for students to congregate, how does that impact, and then student departure.
So here's what's interesting. I think actually it is quite the opposite. I think the Metro Way actually isn't a theory. I think it's actually a set of practices, not uniform, but it's actually a set of practices, the theory of which has not been articulated. I think it's exactly that. So let me take an example. And I'll give you some data back because it's just not my just talking. So a couple of years ago, Alan Gruden was on one of our planning teams. And Alan's a psychologist, right? So his thing is let's measure, right? Let's see who knows these concepts, right? And so do you guys remember what some of the results were? Right, he measured, and campus handshake, like there was a really high percentage of people who knew exactly what that was and actually used it. Right, when you just gave them the words, but when you describe the concept, they're like, oh yeah, I connect people to reason solve. Right? But why does that work, and where does it work, and where does it not work? You know, we don't. That's part of what this is about, is articulating what is it in your life? Why does it work? Where doesn't it work? And why? But yeah, good question. So, last thing I'll say, folks outside of the so where does it take us? So part of the importance of gathering data, not just about what's the story behind what the student intended? What's the story behind how they've had various touch points in their initial way, how it worked or didn't work. But also, who else was involved? Who else do you work with, Greg? Who else do you work with here? Is to understand within that network of relationships, where are the leverage points? Because there are people you have influence with, that are connected to, I didn't even know you were connected to, right? But you can influence, right? Or the faculty who you talk to every day can influence, right? And it's that we need to surface, because that's the real system. Makes sense? So that's what we're doing. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Oh, go fly, go speed.
So that was
Hey, Skip,
Mm-hmm.
any chance I can get my